I sort of anticipated your statement about the 7-minute rule. Um, and last night I prepared a presentation, and it's about 30 pages. So we're not gonna have the time to do that. So instead, I really anticipated this. I have a short statement about what my research is about, and let me just read that to you. And then I'll make one or two statements, and it'll be quite short. So in other words, with the first presentation going over to 7 minutes, mine will be rather short, so we could possibly get it down to the 14-minute period that we have. Okay? So basically, when Marshall McLuhan declared that the medium is the message or the message, he challenged society to look past the explicit content of communication technologies and examine the structural environments they create. This presentation extends McLuhan's insights into the realm of commerce, arguing that markets function not merely as neutral mechanisms for the exchange of goods, but as immersive communicative environments that shape human perception, social relationships, and collective consciousness. By tracing the evolution of commerce across three distinct media paradigms: the linear, standardized environment of the print culture, the sensory, synchronized ecosystem of the 20th century electronic media, and the hyper-personalized, data-driven platforms of the 21st century algorithmic media, this presentation demonstrates how market structures emerge from and are transformed by dominant communication technologies. Ultimately, contemporary markets are best understood as communicative ecosystems where human attention is the primary commodity and where the boundaries between producer, consumer, and the message have completely dissolved. So in other words, we're not living today in the supply and demand of what markets were. We have what we call a prosumer economy. In other words, product and consumer are one. This is what Alvin Toffler talked about years ago and what Marshall McLuhan. Let me give you an illustration what I mean using technology. Some of you who are old enough should remember there was a debate in the United States between Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy, our president. And at that time, there was radio and there was television, two different mediums, how people interact with that. Those who watched the debate on television thought that John F. Kennedy won the debate. Why? Because they used their eyesight to see that he looked better. He didn't look nervous like Nixon. He articulated better. And so whatever they understood from what he said, they thought he won the debate. Those, however, who listened to the debate, not on television, a medium where you saw things, but listened on the radio, didn't see what Nixon looked like, didn't see what Kennedy looked like, didn't see their expressions, didn't see that Nixon looked pale and Kennedy didn't, thought that, Nixon won. So as you see, it's not the content, but it's the technology that determines how we react, how we respond. So now if we ratchet that forward in Marshall McLuhan's term into the 21st century, where we have social media, the whole economic situation of markets being supply and demand are destroyed because you, the consumer, interact with different platforms, which you control what the supply is, what the demand is, what you like. Follow what I'm saying? So it's really not what happens, the interaction between people, but the technology that presents, okay? So that's basically what I will discuss in very much in detail in this paper, which is 30 pages long. And I would yield the rest of my time to the next performance. And hopefully you'll have some questions later coming back.